This is Old Militaris for radio, TV. Come to you live on this Sunday afternoon. Gatestone has done another report in their usual fashion. Outstanding. It's on the Nigerian Christians' genocide. We got Christians being genocide everywhere. And you, my viewers, listeners, you can do something about it. You can join us at Ordo Militaris Catholicus. You can join. You can join. Most of all, you can invest. By you investing, you allow us to become operational. To have a place to bring all these young men together who want to protect Christians. And all the veterans who want to join us. They like what we're doing. But we need you to make it happen. So go to ordo-militaris.us. Go to the donate page, become a member, or even better, become an investor today. Now on to the Gatestone report. By Raymond Abram. Title is A Pure Genocide. Extremist Persecution of Christians. June 2018. Printed today at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, United States. The majority of those 6,000 Christians massacred this year were mostly children, women, and the aged. What is happening in Nigeria is pure genocide and must be stopped immediately. The Christian Association of Nigeria. Second bullet point. There is no doubt that the sole purpose of these attacks is aimed at ethnic cleansing, land grabbing, forceful ejection of the Christian natives from their ancestral land and heritage. Again, from the Christian Association of Nigeria. Realistically speaking, Christianity is on the brink of extinction in Nigeria. The ascendancy of Sharia ideology in Nigeria rings the death toll for the Nigerian church. Again, the Christian Association of Nigeria. Just 1 in 400 Syrian refugees given asylum in the UK last year were Christians, despite them being subjected to horrendous persecution. A paper in the United Kingdom, The Express. The jihad of Nigerian Christians. And what the Christian Association of Nigeria called a pure genocide, 238 more Christians were killed. Churches desecrated by Muslims throughout the month of June. This brings the death toll of Christians to more than 6,000 between January and June of 2018 alone. According to a joint statement by the Christian Association, an umbrella group of various Christian denominations, there is no doubt that the sole purpose of these attacks is aimed at ethnic cleansing, land grabbing, forceful ejection of Christian natives from the ancestral land and heritage. In one of the attacks, over 200 persons were brutally killed, and our churches destroyed without any intervention from security agencies, in spite of several distress calls made to them. No one came. Several distress calls were made. The people who survived. No one came. We at Order Militaris must come. It is up to you to make it happen. So donate, invest, grow an iron backbone, and invest. Stop letting our Christian brethren be wiped off the face of this earth. Stop with this modern passivity where you're too afraid to act, where all you do is tweet, Facebook, YouTube, and cry over this. If you got a smartphone, if you have something that's pretty darn expensive, if God has blessed you with excess wealth, stop wasting it. Put it to good use. In one attack, over 200 persons were brutally killed and churches destroyed without any intervention from security agencies, in spite of several distress calls made to them. Members of Order Militaris, you're members for one reason: for the love of your God, the love of your church, the love of your Christian brethren. That means something totally different today. Excuse me. But we follow the call of Blessed Urban II. Give true love and support to our Christian brethren. That call is still valid. It needs to be heard again and again until it sets your heart on fire. Back to the report. The majority of the 6,000 Christians massacred this year were mostly children, women, and aged. What is happening in Nigeria is pure genocide and must be stopped immediately. The details of the murder of those thousands, though seldom reported, are often grisly. Many were either hacked to death or beheaded with machetes. Others were burned alive, including inside locked churches or homes. And women are often sexually assaulted or raped before being slaughtered. These non-stop Islamic attacks are causing the Christian population of West Africa to plummet to the point of extinction by 2043, warned Bosom Emmanuel, the Secretary of National Christian Elders Forum. On June 23rd, he was reported as saying that the current administration of the President Muhammadu Buhari in Nigeria is openly pursuing an anti-Christian agenda that has resulted in countless murders of Christians all over the nation, the destruction of vulnerable Christian communities. Accordingly, the Church has been weakened and unable to stand before its enemies. Realistically speaking, Christianity is on the brink of extinction in Nigeria. The ascendancy of Sharia ideology in Nigeria rings the death toll for the Nigerian Church. Attacks on Christian churches. Bazi, a known person, set a Serbian Orthodox church on fire in the overwhelming Muslim majority town of Visoko. The arson attack occurred sometime in the early morning hours of Sunday, June 24th. According to the report, a majority of objects inside the Church of the Nativity of the Theotokos, including icons and the holy books, has been destroyed, along with a portion of the roof. The main part of the altar also has been broken. The church had only recently been repaired over a period of 2 years, may be significant. According to the conditions of Omar, which consists of discriminatory stipulations to which Christians must adhere in order to exist under Islamic rule, Christians are required not to build a church in an inner city, nor a monastery, convent, or monk cell in the surrounding areas, and not to repair those that fall in ruin or are in Muslim quarters. Indonesia. Local Muslims forced the closure of another Christian church in Banjarmasin. Muslims claim that the approval given to the church by local authorities was not valid and should be cancelled. The report related as a result of the increased tension, the church has had to suspend services, leaving the 100-strong congregation without anywhere to meet. Indonesian law requires the signature of at least 60 local, non-Christian, meaning Muslim households before application for Christian churches are accepted. Due to such requirements, another church that was established in 1995 in the same city has had to move its meeting location 7 times. Christians comprise of at least 15% of the population of Indonesia, and until a generation ago, Christians and Muslims lived peacefully as equals, says the report. However, Christians are now facing increasing discrimination and violence. There have been a number of attacks on churches, including the Triple Church suicide bombing carried out by members of the same family on Sunday, 13th May 2018. Pakistan, after a month of local harassment, including being told to remove every visible sign of Christianity from the church, Christians were finally ordered to demolish the church because Muslims are the majority in the village, and we can't allow churches to be here. To quote one local Muslim leader, he said the 40 Christian families would need to build a church outside the village. When it is done, we will make the Christians write an agreement that they will sell this current church building or at least dismantle their church structure and crosses, he said. The church belongs to the Full Gospel Assemblies of the evangelical group working in Pakistan. It was built on the land belonging to a 70-year-old Christian man who had bequeathed it to the church. The report states, according to Rafaqat Mas, who represents the evangelical people, Protestants. The construction began in 2012, and we have been holding worship services there since then. But in December 2016, the local Muslims objected over it and filed an application against us in the local police station. At the time, a compromise was reached and we started holding services. But again, in December 2017, they submitted an application to the police station again. After which they were called in and were told to sign an agreement halting all use of the building as a church. After Christians were summoned to another meeting on June 2nd, Mas said, "We're being forced to demolish the existing church structure. In lieu of this, they would let us build a church on a piece of government land outside the village which is already dedicated for a school. They haven't even given any documentary proof that this piece of land would be transferred to Christians. Then another issue is that we worked for several years to construct a church building. Now who's going to pay for the building from scratch? Most of the Christians are poor laborers," the report added. Islamic terrorism contempt for and mistreatment of Christians. In the holy city of Bethlehem, a local man struck a Catholic priest with an unidentified object, variously described as a knife, a key, and a blunt object, according to one report. At Bethlehem's Milk Grotto, the Father Fadi Shalufi, on Friday afternoon, June 1st, opened the chapel gates to foreign tourists, including women who were being harassed by two men. Chapel security footage shows the Franciscan friar exchanging words with the two men through the bars of the closed gates. One of the men pulls what appears to be a knife from his pocket and strikes Shalufi. As a Franciscan clergyman backs away, the footage shows. The priest suffered minor injuries. Palestinian police reported detaining the two men as they take such incidents seriously as they can harm tourism. About 80 to 85% of the West Bank population is Sunni Muslim. Speaking of this incident, one human rights activist said, "While we are grateful that no one was seriously injured during this incident, the reality is that the Middle Eastern Christians constantly live in fear of such attacks. Sadly, the escalation of intimidation, harassment, and violence towards Christians is an all too common occurrence during Ramadan, the feast of when all Islamic terrorists go berserk and kill a lot of people." Thankfully, this Franciscan priest was not one of them. Pakistan, a mentally disabled Christian man convicted of blasphemy charges, was beaten by Muslim inmates for praying on June 22nd. 3 years earlier, Yaqub Bashar, 25, was accused by a Muslim cleric of burning pages of a booklet carrying Quran verses. He was arrested in prison, according to a local human rights activist familiar with the case. Bashar was set to have a hearing in court on June 23rd, and before appearing, the young Christian wanted to pray at night. However, the prisoners with him did not allow him to pray in front of them. When Bashar continued, 4 of them got annoyed and beat him very badly. He sustained injuries to his face, eyes, chin, and head. It is sad to hear that Christians are not secure even in police custody. Bishop Samson Shukadin of Hyderabad Diocese said, quote from the bishop, "It is the duty of the state to ensure the protection of all citizens. If a young Christian is facing violence and torture in jail, then one can only imagine the new heights of persecution. At this stage, I am worried for his life. Allowing an attack on a mentally disabled prisoner shows that the prison authorities are not sincerely trying to protect the citizens, nor does the government have a clear policy to curb extremist movements." Excuse me. Let's not forget about Asia Bibi, Catholic mom, wife. From some of the photos, it looks like she was a veteran too. All her lawyer fled Pakistan after got her off and out of prison, but she's not able to leave. President Trump needs to act and give this woman and her family true asylum. Now in Tajikistan, local Muslims tried to prevent a Christian man from burying the corpse of his wife until he returned to Islam. When an elderly Christian woman from a Muslim background died last week, explains the June 20th report, her husband, Birab, and children, all of them Christians, organized a funeral ceremony and invited people from their church. But Mirab's Muslim relatives also invited local Muslims, including a cleric who demanded that Mirab convert back to Islam. Otherwise, he would refuse to hold the ceremony and prevent them from burying the Christian woman in the local cemetery. Mirab responded that the pastor of the church would hold the ceremony, but the Muslims present vowed that they would not allow the woman's body to be buried, saying Mirab and her family were betrayers of Islam. After appealing to a local official, the Christian family was eventually given permission to lay their wife and mother to rest. Burials are one example of ways in which Christians are put under pressure across Central Asia, noted the report. The common tradition is for the dead body to return to the village community where the family originated, but converts are seen as bringing shame on the community. As a result, they and their family members, whether or not they have also converted, are often prevented from being buried there. In Morocco, while deemed significantly less radical than other Muslim nations, Christians in North African Muslim Kingdom are still seen and treated as second-class citizens. Any public expression of faith creates difficulties for them. For example, by law, only foreign Christians are allowed to collectively worship in churches, many set up during the French colonial era, and proselytism is punishable by up to 3 years in prison, according to a June 8th report. Similarly, 2 converts to Christianity had to marry, in a small ceremony in a meeting room of a human rights group in the Moroccan capital, ignoring threats from people in their conservative hometown. They are part of a tiny minority who are converted to Christianity and are demanding legal recognition of their marriage. Islam is a religion of state in predominantly Sunni Muslim Morocco, where only Muslim and Jewish marriages are deemed legal. We're crying out loud. Sorry folks, hard to work from home on the weekends when everybody's here. Alright, back to the report. From now on, I have to wear a niqab, a face veil, if I want to walk in the streets of my hometown. The new bride said after the ceremony, "We want to be recognized as Moroccan Christian citizens and enjoy the right to legal marriages and burial ceremonies." I think we are back. So far, we are back. Back to the report. The new couple wants to enjoy the rights to legal marriages and burial ceremonies according to our religion, said a local human rights representative. Another Christian couple who they refuse to get married in Sharia setting, and therefore their Christian marriage remains unacknowledged. "We are running the risk of being accused of fornication punishable under the penal code. We suffer from discrimination by authorities which do not recognize us as Moroccan Christian couples, with social pressure and harassment because of our choice of faith." According to the VOA, the native Christian community is estimated by local leaders at more than 50,000, but no official statistics exist. The extremist abuse of Christians in Egypt. After Christians objected that a group of Muslim men were swimming completely nude in front of their homes while Christian women were sitting outside, a Muslim mob gathered around the homes of Christians across the canal and began pelting them with bricks and stones, while shouting Allah Akbar, Allah is greater, and chanting slogans against cops. A local resident, Nasheed Izzat, said they broke the windows and doors of some houses, looted and destroyed some properties. 6 Christians were injured and required stitches in their heads. Police arrived 3 hours later and arrested 7 Christians and 2 Muslims. According to the report, local Christians said the police arrested them in order to pressure the Christian community to reconcile with their Muslim attackers in exchange for the release of the detained cops. They were released 5 days later. Although Christians are not legally required to observe Ramadan, including by joining Muslims in fasting during the day, 1 Christian was arrested and 2 Christians beaten for failing to observe the Muslim holiday. When Honey George, 31 years old, arrived at the Giza rail station, a police officer asked for his identification. Once the officer realized that Hani was a Christian, he began searching through his bags. There was a bottle of water inside my bag, and while he was searching, he was staring at this bottle with anger. George said, "He took my ID from me and asked me to follow him. When I resisted, he asked why he was taking me. He started insulting me and ordered that I stop talking as if I was a criminal. The officer told me, 'Why did you have this bottle of water while we are in Ramadan?' I told him I was not fasting because I was a Christian, but they insulted me and said that I would stay there until sunset and that I was not allowed to sit. I was held at the police station for more than 2 hours and was dealt with in a very humiliating way while having done nothing. When I am at work, I don't eat or drink in front of my Muslim colleagues as a sign of respect." Separately, on June 6, the farmer Adel Haboud 52 was drinking water outdoors when he was approached by a group of young men. They asked me, "Why are you breaking Ramadan fasting?" I told them I was a Christian. As soon as they heard the word Christian, they attacked and beat me with their hands until I almost fainted. Excuse me, but you're just. Another incident that occurred on June 1st. A Christian bus driver was beaten for drinking tea while waiting at a bus stop. An eyewitness saw a group of men attack a bus and smash its windows. I approached the microbus and found out the driver was attacked because he was drinking a cup of tea inside and also because he was a Christian. There were a tattoo of a cross on his right wrist. Yet, according to the report, the Egyptian Fatwa House and Islamic Research Center presided over the government, declared in 2016 that eating or drinking during fasting hours of Ramadan is not part of the personal freedom of people, but rather an aggression against Islam. Finally, discussing what it calls a spike in kidnapping and disappearance of Christian women and girls in rural areas of Egypt and some cities. A June 13th report explained that there is a trafficking strategy that target Copts, Christians, young ladies, and forces them to convert to Islam, then sell them into either domestic care in other international locations or into the sex trade. This is a tactic to demoralize the women and humiliate the Christian community. There were 7 kidnappings of Coptic Christian women in the month of April alone, and an 8th one on May 2nd. One of the girls who was kidnapped, Mirna Malak Shanura, a 16-year-old Coptic Christian girl, escaped her kidnappers. She was kidnapped by 2 women and a man in Aswan. She had been knocked out but woke on a train. At one of the stops she jumped off, called her parents. However, Shanwadwa escape and rescue are rare. Good girl. It's how you should be. Aware of your surroundings. Know where you are. And at a free moment, escape. Christian families complain that the police often do nothing. In one instance, after the family reported to the police, they returned to the station for updates, and the police stated that the woman had come into the station, said she was not missing and willing converted to Islam. The family says they do not believe she would willingly convert to a different religion, as she loved God. However, the local police will not investigate this case or similar cases any further. Western enablers of religious supreme on the Western enablers against Christians. Iraq, a Christian community leader, lamented that the Pope Francis's repeated emphasis on greater tolerance for and understanding of Islam has left the deeply persecuted Chaldean minority Iraqi Christians feeling insecure and vulnerable, says the report. In an interview, Aziz Emmanuel al-Jabari, 68, a Chaldean political candidate, starting not to be able to talk. Sorry about that. Political candidate and professor at the Catholic University of Erbil said, "We have actually been weakened by the stance taken by the Vatican. The Vatican is teaching the community to be submissive. That won't help us get our rights. Zabar referred to the Pope's approach as naive and short-sighted. There can't be dialogue when one party is down and the other party has the upper hand. There is no equal ground here. Iraq's Chaldeans, he said, have paid a high price for being Christian, and we cannot prevail without protection. When I am displaced, when my family is threatened with sexual violence, and then I'm told just to pray and be tolerant, we don't expect any support from the Vatican. We are in a hopeless situation. Is he? Not in a hopeless situation. If we could get people to invest, to donate, you would have your security. We need you who are watching the videos, who are listening to the radio programs. Use your smartphone devices, tablets, computers. Donate and or invest, so that these folks are not left to be hopeless and helpless. To the United Kingdom. Just 1 in 400 Syrian refugees given asylum in the UK last year were Christians, despite them being subjected to horrendous persecution. Excuse me. A June 23rd report found the number of Christians granted asylum by Britain has slumped considerably since 2016, when 1.5% were Christians. Critics of those statistics argue that because Christians amount to 10% of Syria's population, so 10% of Syrian refugees would be Christian. Yet, if anything, last year the percentage dropped to almost 0.23%, amounting to 11 of the 4,832 Syrians who were resettled in the UK. Overwhelming majority of those nearly 5,000 refugees, I quote, because they are not refugees, they are Muslim invaders. They have one goal: to capture the West by any means possible. Are Sunni Muslims, the one sect not targeted by the Islamic State, which itself is Sunni. That is why you have these so-called leaders who are so passive. They give in to these Islamic invaders' demands. They promote Sharia blasphemy laws, where you cannot tell the truth about Islam, where you can't tell the truth about Muhammad, where you can't tell the truth, period, where you can't even quote in the writings of your Prime Minister, Winston Churchill. That is how bad it is. On to the Canada. During a Parliament session, MP Garnet Genius asked Prime Minister Justin Trudeau If you acknowledge, as other heads of nations had done, that the Islamic State was persecuting Christians, Justin Trudeau did not give a clear answer. Genius later wrote in a Facebook post, "Today in question period 1 asked the Prime Minister to acknowledge the persecution of Christians in the Middle East, and to recognize that Christians were victims of genocide at the hands of Daesh, ISIS. The Prime Minister did not answer the question at all. It would not even use the word Christian in his response. The government's response to the minority persecution around the world has been underwhelming, but on issues impacting Christians in particular, they have steadfastly refused to engage at all." Similarly, Andrew Scheer, another Canadian MP, said, "Justin Trudeau's failure to stand up against persecution of Christians and other minorities around the world is completely unacceptable." During this incident, one report noted, "When it comes to criticism of radical Islam, Justin Trudeau immediately denounces it as Islamophobia, seeking to shut down any discussion whatsoever. But when it comes to persecution against other faiths, particularly Christianity, Trudeau is silent." Austria. Catholic children forced to learn Islamic songs at an Austrian elementary school is the title of the June 20th report. At an elementary school in Linz, Catholic children have to memorize and recite Islamic songs as a part of the Islamic Ramadan festival. They were forced to take part and were punished if they refused. After picking up her young son from school, one Catholic mother was shocked to hear him loudly chanting, "Allah, Allah." He told her that for 2 months the entire class had been compelled to sing songs about Islam, or else risk punishment. "It felt like a slap in my face," said the mother. According to the report, Islamic religious teachers came to the children in the class and ordered the students to learn appropriate Ramadan songs, because the whole class must celebrate the festival. Such Islam-first incidents have been growing around Austrian schools. An elementary school teacher from Vienna has said earlier that it is becoming impossible to integrate Muslim children. "Sharia law is superior for many of my students," she warned. Music and dance are rejected on religious grounds. Also, discussions and fights take place with increasing frequency along religious lines. Many schools are getting more and more out of control, and the problems in the classroom are almost impossible to solve. And at the end of this report, you can see every month and year of all the reports. That's horrible. To the Austrian Prime Minister, Sebastian Kurz, "You are not doing your duty in protecting the Austrian people from the invasion of Islam. If you were truly protecting the Austrian people, as you said you would, and stop the onslaught of Islam in Austria, you go to every school in your nation, expel every radical Islamic teacher from it. Outlaw Islam. Outlaw everything about Islam. As Islam, as the report has stated, is taking over your country. Same in the United Kingdom, Canada, where now there are reports saying we have a right to fear Canada as the next ground where Islamic terrorism will come from. So I say to President Trump, build the southern wall and build the northern wall. Build bases along from California coast to the Florida coast, from up there on the northern coast all the way over. So our military are protecting our borders from coast to coast. Well, that is it for today's report. About 46 minutes long. Sorry for all the pausing and startings. But we got it done. And one more time, those of you who watch and follow us on Twitter, YouTube, Blog Talk Radio, Facebook, my WordPress site, we need you to donate. We need you to invest. So go to ordo-militaris.us. It is full.